I am here for two main purposes. One, the aurora, and two, moose, and hopefully any other wildlife. First night, the clouds are rolling in, and they're supposed to last all through tomorrow, even tomorrow night. So far, everyone I've talked to said it's 50-50. They could go away at any time and come roll back in. Right now, my hopes aren't high, but I really need this. Really need this to happen this weekend, if nothing else. I need to see even just a faint bit of green. There was nothing last night for the aurora because the clouds never went away. And it looks like it's not going to stop snowing until about lunchtime today, so... Well, good morning. And, hey, the skies are even clearer this Friday morning. Probably should have gotten up earlier, but last night I stayed up until 1, kept going outside checking if the aurora is going to be out, and it's blocked by clouds again. So far that's 2 nights. So tonight is really the only chance. You know those moments in life where you see something and you take such an immediate interest that you want to focus on nothing else but that for as long as you can? People who live so far inland that they haven't seen the ocean for so long, or people who haven't seen the mountains, or people who see a photo of a galaxy or a nebula and they just take an immediate interest and focus in that type of science. So the first solo trip that I took to Oregon, I didn't think much about the Northern Lights at all. And maybe soon after that, I was scrolling through Instagram and saw a couple photos of it. And I thought, that's something special that never happens the same way twice. And so my second solo trip was to South Dakota, and I started downloading apps, doing research on KP index, BZ numbers, BT, all this stuff that's associated with trying to see the aurora, checking out websites, keeping track of the predictions. And I thought just because April was towards the end of the aurora season, I might be able to catch something in South Dakota. But then the predictions kept going down and down every single night, and the snow shower came in, clouds came in. But the day I left South Dakota and traveled back home, there was a solar flare that caused an aurora that came so far south as Oklahoma. And unfortunately, I'm in southeast Texas, so I was pissed. I was sad. I was kicking myself for not staying an extra day, but also not knowing how to stay an extra day and cancel a flight or move everything around. It's like I didn't have the luxury of being able to do that. So I was just left very disappointed from that trip for that. My third trip, I traveled up to Maine, and still hoping at the beginning of the aurora season, but what I didn't realize was the smoke from the wildfires up in Canada were traveling right over me. So every day and every evening was just that ugly haze. It was bright, but you couldn't really see the sun. So I saved a little more, and I decided I need to face the harsh winter up in Alaska. Tried to look at forecasts and the history of, over spring break in the middle of March, what's the cloud cover like up around Fairbanks, and luckily it was not bad. And it's far enough north that even a low KP index prediction, there's still a slim chance of seeing a tiny bit of green. So I know it's a crapshoot, but I just had to roll the dice on that. So when I drove up to a summit in this big parking lot, it was already packed, and people still didn't consider turning their headlights off or their tail lights off or the emergency brake, any lights on their car. People just weren't aware that, yeah, even those lights can affect people who are trying to take photos the other way. So I get out, and it's well below freezing. My fingers and my toes, I have to keep moving around in place, or else, I'm gonna get frostbite out there. Layered as much as I can. And maybe after 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, I'm scanning with my camera, because the camera can see the colors that our eyes can't. And I had to tell a few people this. So I'm scanning, and off to my right, I start picking up this tiny little green patch, just a little patch in the sky. And I thought, okay, maybe the start of something big is coming from that way. I got a couple of decent shots with it. The clouds were not bad, but they were doing some cool stuff. And then people start, turning on their cars and getting out and turning their lights on, and things get ruined. And that's where I equated the Aurora, started calling her Lady Aurora, because if you're respectful and polite, she'll come out and dance for you, I think. But, if you're rude and disrespectful, in this case, people turning on their lights, getting in the way of something really beautiful in the sky, she's gonna go away. And that's exactly what happened. It just disappeared. Went back to the vehicle, waited a little while longer, tried to get out and get in my spot again, and just practicing shooting the night sky, because the stars were beautiful anyway. And so maybe another 20 or 30 minutes go by, and it's well after 1 o'clock. I'm thinking, if there was going to be something, it would have died down by now. All I wanted was one little bit, just one little bit of happiness out there in the sky, even if it was just a slim little sliver of green out there. Just give me something. Of course, as I'm starting to really lose hope about the main reason for the trip, even though people say don't let that be the only reason, it wasn't, but it was the main one. Most lights were off, but people started stepping out. Someone asked me, can you see anything? I looked down at my camera again, and then right back up at the faint cloud in the distance. I was like, yep, that's it. Tried to get single images as I could, and then I set my camera up to try to get a bit of time lapse, and it wasn't much, but here it is. It's still something special, and it's mine. All the obsession and the focus that just led up to a moment. Everybody says, patience is key, and it is. It could take a long time, it can take a lot of money, but it doesn't matter how faint it was, it's still the most beautiful thing I'd seen. Everybody wants a really special memory to look back on, and now I've got it. I don't know what else to say, but after you've seen it just a little bit, even once, it becomes very addictive, and I need to see more of it because that's just pure joy and happiness up there. It's going to take a lot more time and a lot more money, but I know where I'm going next.